My name's Brandon. I run a construction company I built from nothing, just me, an old pickup, and enough grit to work through the cold, broke winters. It's not some giant empire, but it's mine. 5 crews, solid income, loyal clients. I'm proud of it. I also thought I had a marriage to be proud of. My wife, Taylor, and I had been together for 7 years. I put her through law school, paid her tuition, rent, groceries, all while I was grinding 14-hour days on site. Her family never liked me much. Her dad, Gerald, is a finance guy. Her mom, Diane, sells homes. Her brother, Mark, is the typical MBA type who thinks everyone with calloused hands is beneath him. Still, I loved her. So I tried to win them over. Every spring, Taylor insisted we host her family for a big dinner, her way of showing off our home, our life together. I'd spend days cleaning, prepping the yard, making sure everything looked perfect. This year was no different. Except it was. I'd been sensing something was off for weeks. She was distant, secretive, always on her phone. Tabs closed the second I walked in. And her tone had changed, like every question I asked was some kind of inconvenience. But I chalked it up to work stress. That night, I stepped out to the garage to grab 2 extra chairs for dinner. As I came around the corner, I heard Mark say, "I still can't believe you married this guy." Dad was right. You need to get out before you're stuck with kids and can't leave. And Taylor replied, casual as can be, "I'm already working on it. My lawyer says I can take half his business." I froze. They didn't know I was there. They just kept talking, laughing. Mark said something about a guy named Drew being a better fit, someone from her past, and how she wasted her best years with me while I played around in dirt and steel. I stood there, 2 folding chairs in my hands, feeling like the world had tilted sideways. But I didn't say a word. I walked back in, smiled through dinner, served brisket and wine, and listened to her dad critique my business like I was some failed apprentice. She sat across from me, smiling. I studied her like a stranger. After everyone left, she hummed while doing dishes. Hummed, like she hadn't just set our marriage on fire. I offered to finish cleaning. She kissed me on the cheek and called me a good husband. The next morning, while she was still asleep, I opened her laptop. Password protected. That was new, but I guessed it on the 3rd try. And what I found broke me. Her inbox was full of conversations with someone named Drew, just like Mark mentioned. Turns out, Drew was an old college friend. They'd reconnected on Instagram months ago. It started with innocent DMs, evolved into lunch, catch-ups, and ended with a hotel receipt she carelessly left in a folder labeled miscellaneous. The worst part? She'd been writing about me to him, like I was some simpleton, a stepping stone. She said things like, "He's nice but clueless. All muscle, no mind. Once I get half the business, I can walk away clean. It's just a matter of time." That morning, I packed a bag, drove to the next town, and stayed at a cheap motel while I cleared my head. I didn't rage, didn't call her, didn't confront anyone. Instead, I started making moves. First, I called my accountant, told him we were restructuring the business. We split it into 2 separate LLCs, one holding assets, one holding liabilities. All legal, all documented. I moved my salary to a personal account she didn't know about, froze every joint card, removed her as an authorized user on every account I owned. Next, I hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, one who specialized in high-conflict divorce and financial shielding. She was calm, sharp, and surgical. "Document everything," she told me. "Play it cool. Let her show her hand." So I did. I went back home that evening with takeout, acted normal, asked about her day. She smiled, said work was crazy, kissed me, and when in shower I checked the laundry basket. Sure enough, hotel shampoo bottles, a matchbook from some rooftop bar, a receipt for a dinner that wasn't with me. She wasn't even hiding it. She thought she'd already won. Over the next 2 weeks, I set the trap. I pretended nothing had changed, brought her flowers, rubbed her feet, played the role. And while I did, I installed security cameras in the house, disguised as motion sensors. I started scanning every document she touched, every call she made when I was nearby. She used speakerphone a lot. Big mistake. She called Drew at least 5 times a week. They talked about the exit plan. She even floated the idea of faking emotional abuse to get more sympathy in court. I recorded it all. Every call, every message, every plan. When she told her mother she'd take him for everything, I uploaded the audio straight to a private cloud folder shared with my lawyer. By the end of the month, I had a digital war chest. I had enough evidence to bury her in court. and she didn't even know I'd left the driveway. Then came the final step. I invited her to a date night. She dressed up, curled her hair, said it was sweet of me to make time. We sat at a quiet steakhouse. I ordered her favorite wine. We laughed. She said, "I'm glad we're getting back on track." Then I slid an envelope across the table. She opened it, expecting maybe tickets or a love letter. It was a separation agreement. Detailed, unforgiving, legally solid. She stared at it. "What the hell is this?" I leaned in. "This is your exit plan, right? I just signed it for you." Her face drained. "You knew?" I smiled. Since the folding chairs. The silence between us at that steakhouse was deafening. She blinked at the papers like they were written in another language. But I knew she understood every word. Taylor wasn't dumb. She just thought I was. "You can't be serious," she said finally, voice cracking. "Oh, I'm serious," I said, sipping my drink. "I just stopped being stupid." She tried to compose herself. Switched from confusion to rage, fast. "You're trying to scare me. I have rights. I talked to a lawyer." I cut her off. Calmly. "And I talked to 3. You might want to check who actually owns the business now. You'd be surprised." That night, she didn't come home. She went to her parents' house, where her brother and Drew were already waiting, from what I later found out. By morning, the group chat they didn't realize I still had access to was lit up. He flipped the script. We underestimated him. This could get ugly. Yeah, it could. But I didn't want ugly. I wanted clean. Controlled. The next 2 weeks were war, quiet war. Her lawyer sent a demand letter. Wanted half the business, spousal support, the house, and reimbursement for emotional strain. My lawyer sent back a drive full of audio files, credit card records, screenshots, and camera footage. Her lawyer quit the case within 3 days. She got another one. This one a little sharper. They tried a new tactic, painting me as manipulative and controlling. Classic deflection. Didn't work. By then, we'd submitted everything. The judge saw through it immediately. I didn't even have to speak in court. Her own words were enough. She sat there, quiet, listening to herself describe me as a dumb worker she could bleed dry. She cried. I didn't. The ruling? She got her clothes, her car, and a warning about defamation. I kept the house, the business, the accounts, the retirement, everything I built, protected. Drew? He dipped. 2 weeks after the verdict, he stopped responding to her. She tried to save face on social media, posting selfies and captions about new beginnings and finding peace. But the followers weren't buying it. People knew. One of her old co-workers sent me a DM. "She used to laugh behind your back. Glad you're doing better now." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. But here's where it gets real. I wasn't just interested in beating her. I wanted to rebuild. So I sold the house. Bought a new one 2 towns over, closer to my cruise, with land, space, and silence. Started waking up early again, but not to stress, to stretch, to cook, to breathe. I stopped waiting for peace to come from outside. I started creating it myself. And it was better than revenge. It was rebirth. The new house sat on 5 acres at the edge of a wooded ridge. There was no gate, no massive driveway, no granite counters. But it was mine. The kind of place where the sun actually made it through the trees in the morning. Where birds replaced traffic. Where silence didn't feel empty, it felt earned. I didn't bring much from the old life. Just my dog, Max, my tools, a few clothes, and my grandfather's workbench. Left behind the rest. The memories. The photos. Even the wedding album. I figured she could keep the snapshots of the life she pretended to want. I kept the part that mattered. My peace. For a while, I stayed off social media. Didn't want to scroll. Didn't want to see her healing posts, or Drew's gym selfies, or her brother's vacation spam. But one night, a friend from the men's group I'd joined sent me a link. It was her. On a podcast. The topic? Reclaiming yourself after betrayal. I almost laughed. She spoke like she was the one who'd been blindsided. Said I was secretly abusive with silence, unavailable emotionally, and intimidating with passive control. All fancy words for. He figured me out before I could finish the job. That podcast didn't blow up. Comments were quiet. People weren't buying it anymore. But it made me realize something important. She wasn't just trying to hurt me financially. She was trying to rewrite the story, her version of it. Where I was the villain. Where she was the misunderstood heroine, trapped in a house built by a man who didn't appreciate her ambition. She forgot I kept receipts. And more importantly, I didn't need to prove anything. The more I detached from her world, the more I reconnected with mine. I started spending weekends helping neighbors with small projects, fixing fences, rehanging doors, clearing brush. Not for money, just because I could. That's how I met Lisa. She owned the property next to mine, ran a small flower farm, and had a laugh that filled a whole room. No filters, no fake smiles. Just this grounded, low-key energy that didn't ask me for anything. We started with neighborly favors. I fixed her back gate. She brought over homemade cobbler. We talked about weather, dogs, and music. Not once did she ask about my past. And that's why I eventually told her. I gave her the full story one evening over coffee. No edits, no dramatics. Just the truth. When I finished, she didn't say, "That's crazy," or "I can't believe it." She just nodded and said, "You're not bitter. You're honest." That's rare. That meant more to me than any apology I'd ever gotten. We didn't rush into anything. There was no dramatic kiss in the rain moment. It was slow, safe, steady, like breathing after holding it for years. Months passed. Quiet ones. Max would follow me out to the garden in the mornings. I started keeping a journal. Nothing poetic, just notes, thoughts, observations. Little stuff. The way the light hit the porch around 7:15. The sound of Lisa's laugh next door when she talked to her goats. The feeling of not needing to explain where I was or who I was with. One evening, as fall rolled in and the air turned crisp, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something in me said, "Pick up." It was Gerald, Taylor's father. I hadn't spoken to him since that dinner, the one where he told her I wasn't her level. His voice was slower now. Older. Like something had taken the arrogance out of him. He told me Taylor had moved out of state. Said she and Drew didn't last long. Said she was in therapy. "She's not doing well," he added. Then he paused. "I know you probably don't care, Brandon, but I wanted to say, I was wrong about you." I didn't know what to say. Part of me expected him to ask for something, or try to make it about himself. But he didn't. He just said, "You were the only one who ever really showed up. And we treated you like a phase." "I'm sorry." That hit harder than I expected. I told him, "I'm not angry anymore." He said, "I can tell." We hung up. And I sat there for a long time, staring out at the yard. Not out of sadness, but because for the first time, I didn't feel like a ghost in someone else's memory. I felt real again. A few weeks later, I ran into Ryan, Taylor's brother, in town. He was alone at a gas station, grabbing a soda. He saw me, froze, then walked over. "Hey, man," he said awkwardly. "Long time." I nodded. He tried to small talk. Weather, work, whatever, then finally asked, "You hate us, don't you?" I shrugged. "No, I just don't need you in my life." That answer landed. He nodded slowly, eyes on the pavement. "You were always solid. I just followed her lead. I didn't think you'd walk away." I laughed. "None of you did. That's why I had to." He didn't apologize. But he didn't deflect either. And that, surprisingly, felt like enough. That night, I told Lisa about both conversations. She listened the way she always does, fully, quietly. Then she said, "You know the best part of healing?" I asked, "What?" "You stop caring about who claps for you. You just enjoy the sound of your own peace." She was right. I didn't need validation. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need justice. Because I had something better. Distance. And that made everything else feel small. The following spring, I built a new deck behind the house. It wasn't for anyone in particular. Just a space to sit, drink coffee, and feel the air move without needing to be anywhere else. Some nights I'd sit there with Max. Some nights with Lisa. Some nights just with myself, a glass of bourbon, a quiet breeze, and the hum of crickets cutting through the dark. One night, Emma, Lisa's niece, asked me why I lived so far out in the middle of nowhere. I smiled. Because it's the first place I've ever felt close to myself. She didn't get it. But one day, she will. Taylor sent me a letter that summer. Handwritten. No return address. It was 7 pages long. She wrote about the guilt. The unraveling. How Drew turned out to be nothing like she imagined, and how everything felt like sand once she got what she thought she wanted. She admitted she used me. Admitted she got swept up in her family's expectations, in her ego, in the idea that she deserved more, without really understanding what she had. She didn't ask to come back. She just said she hoped I was happy. I didn't write back. Not because I hated her, but because that chapter was done. And sometimes peace means letting someone talk to your silence. A year passed. Then 2. Lisa and I didn't rush anything. No pressure. No labels. We just existed together. Two people who'd been through enough to know the value of stillness. One Sunday morning, while stacking firewood, I realized something. I no longer thought about the betrayal every day. I no longer ran conversations in my head. I no longer waited for an apology because the absence of chaos had become my reward. That's how you know you've healed. When you no longer need closure from someone else's mouth because you've already built it with your own hands. I tell this story now not to relive it, not to shame anyone, but because maybe, just maybe, someone out there feels the same weight I once did. The quiet kind. The kind that sits on your chest at night and whispers that you've been replaced, ignored, erased. I'm here to tell you this. You are not the life they walked away from. You are the life they'll never be part of again. And that's the win.